In this episode of the How to Get on Reality TV podcast, we're going to answer the question, what the heck are you supposed to say in your audition video? And on top of that, how do you say it in a way to stand out from everyone else? All that and more in this episode. Welcome to the How to Get on Reality TV podcast with Dan Giesling, where I answer your reality TV casting questions once a week. Welcome back to another episode of the podcast. Before we get into answering today's question, I do want to thank you. Whether you watch the podcast on YouTube or the Facebook page or the website or listen to it on iTunes in your car, thank you. Getting the feedback from the new formatted episode, a weekly, a show once a week, Q&A format on Mondays. Thank you guys. I appreciate the additional reviews, and it gets me fired up that we're answering your questions and getting, the tryhards and normal, quote unquote, normal people in position to get cast on reality TV. So that being said, I do want to remind you guys that on the website at howtogetonrealitytv.net/calls is an active list of reality TV shows that are currently casting. So there may be some shows you're not sure you're interested in, or you maybe you've never heard of. Be sure to check out that link to maybe apply for a show you've never thought of before. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into today's question from Samantha.
Hi Dan, my name is Samantha, and my question was, what exactly should I talk about in my video, and how can I make myself stand out?
Samantha, thanks so much for asking your question by going to howtogetonrealitytv.net/ask, and we're going to break your initial question down into two parts. And the first part is, what are you supposed to say in an audition video? And the most important thing you need to understand about creating an audition video is essentially you're selling yourself. And the only person that's going to know how to sell yourself is you. So to do that, you really have to define your story and understand your own personal story and what makes you stand out. So if you just plan on making an audition video by just hitting a button on the camera and just rambling, that's probably not going to work for you. It's going to work for a very small percentage of people who are really naturally gifted and dynamic and entertaining just by way of their normal personality. For most people, myself included, that wasn't the case. So I had to do a lot of development of my story, and that's exactly what you need to do. So the first part about understanding your story is really understanding, what do you physically bring to the table? What do you bring that's different from other people? And while that's a very generally vague question, that's where you have to start. And bottom line, if you don't know what separates you from other people, or if you don't know your own individual story, no one else is going to be able to tell that for you. So you really have to start with your story. Now, what does that mean? Let's take, for example, Samantha, say you're a student. So say you were to turn on the camera and say, hey, my name's Samantha, I'm, 24 years old and I'm a student. That's not much of a story. You've got to go much further about that. And you really have to ask yourself, what is it that makes me stand out? And if you have a tough time doing that because that requires an immense amount of, self-understanding, one action you can take to help yourself figure out what is unique about yourself is you can send an email out to some of your friends and family members and even coworkers. Now, when you do this, you need to do this understanding you may get some criticism, but that's exactly what you want. You want people to tell you what they remember about you, so that gives you an idea of what to build upon in your own individual story. So what do I mean by that? If you send an email out to some of your friends and family and even coworkers saying, hey, what do you like about me? What do you think is unique about me? And then finally you want to ask them, what do you dislike about me, or what would you change about me? Because those are all things that you may not necessarily realize as an individual, things you may do that annoy people, would be something interesting to talk about in your story or in your audition video. Things that people may find unique about you wouldn't even considered. So really understanding how other people perceive you is important, but also controlling your story and building your story based off those things is also really important. The other part about what you should talk about in the video is understanding how to execute your story. So when you talk about creating an audition video and telling your story, there needs to be a beginning, middle, and end, and you have to practice this story. So, for example, the first time you tell your story, it isn't going to be that naturally engaging. You're going to have to tweak it and practice it and adjust it over time. So how do you do that? You want to practice this in people that you meet on a daily basis, and you're going to start to notice when you talk about things, people are either going to light up, or they're going to ask you a follow-up question, or they may laugh at a particular part of your short story explaining who you are and where you came from and what interests you. And those are the things you need to remember, so you're constantly tweaking your story. And really what it boils down to, the first time you're telling your story shouldn't be on camera. You should, a lot of normal people who apply for reality TV, it's not normal to sit in front of a camera and talk about yourself. So you have to practice that even before you get to that stage. Now, the second part, the second question, or the second part of the question you asked was, how do you stand out? So say you fully understand your story. Say you're not just a student. Say that, you're a student who also, is a part-time mortician, or a student who, collects baseball cards and trades them, for obscure items. Whatever it is, once you've defined the uniqueness of your story, how do you stand out? And the number one thing you can do is practice, practice, practice. And while this may not be the advice you want to hear, it's what's going to make you actually better and more dynamic on camera. And there's a general rule when creating an audition video, or when you're on camera in general. And that is, you're going to be as 1/10 as entertaining or as energetic as you think you are actually being. And what does that mean? If you just if I were to record this video and just talk like this, like I probably normally would in everyday conversation, it's not going to be that fun to watch. But as you put more and more energy into this, if someone were to walk by my office while I'm recording this, they're going to be like, Dan looks like a crazy person. His arms are waving around. But on camera, that looks borderline normal, not even over the top engaging. So what that means for you is you have to be 10 times more energetic on camera than you probably are in your daily life, just for it to look somewhat normal on camera. Because people that we see on TV every day, whether it's newscasters or actors or what have you, they're trained in doing that. As normal people trying to get on reality TV, we're not trained. It's not normal for us to speak on camera. So you've got to get used to that. And so say you're like, all right, Dan, well, I think I'm being energetic on camera. Well, the only way you know is after you've done that and after you've recorded it, is to sit back and watch it. And I'll guarantee you, the first time you watch your audition video, you're going to be like, wow, I sound like that? Or that's not really that good of a story, or that's not that funny. So as you watch yourself, which is the huge advantage of creating an audition video as opposed to going to an open casting call, you're going to get better and better. And it may take you 3 hours to shoot the first 30 seconds of your audition video until you get it just right. And I want to put a little note of caution in that. You don't want your audition video to seem perfectly seamless with no stuttering or no mess ups, but you want to make sure that you're hitting all your points. You're not forgetting, the memorable parts of your story and things of that nature. So on top of that, I kind of want to backtrack in terms of, okay, so say you have a general idea of your story, you're going to be energetic when creating your audition video. The one thing you want to build upon is, so say you're a student, say you're a baker, say you're a lawyer, say you're an accountant. That's not enough, right? You have to be a unique accountant, a unique student, a unique baker. And really the way you find out what's unique about yourself, or the way you share what's unique about yourself, is you create what I like to call the weird list. And when I say create a weird list, what I mean by that is you want to create a list of, say, 5 to 10 things that you do that you may be embarrassed about, that if you were to tell your friends, they may make fun of you about, or that there are things that you may hide from other people because you're unsure of, or they may not get it, right? And so when you create that weird list, those are the best things about yourself in casting, because there's never gonna be another lawyer who grew up in a mortician's lab, or there's never going to be a teacher who is a undercover Pokemon fan. Whatever it is, those unique things that we tend to hide as normal people is really what makes you stand out from the crowd. So I hope this helps. And, to help you a little bit more with your audition video, I want to give you a couple things to definitely not do. And one of which is, number one thing, do not put anyone else in your audition video. Don't put your friends or coworkers saying, hey, Samantha is going to be the best, person on The Voice ever, or Samantha is going to be, the most cutthroat person The Apprentice has ever seen. Don't have other people say that on your video. That's a mistake a lot of people make, because you should be your best salesman. And the people who are in casting, they're never going to see your best friend or your coworker. They don't care about them. They care about you and how you're able to articulate yourself on camera and in certain situations. So that's number one not to do. The other thing you want to avoid is using cliches in your video. So if you're applying for Survivor, don't film yourself in the wilderness eating rice. Or if you're applying to get on The Real World, don't show yourself living with your roommates and staging a fight. Don't do things that are cliches, because that's been done a million times before, and that's going to be one of the fastest ways for a casting associate or someone who's looking at it and be like, okay, number one, we've seen this a million times. Number two, you have no originality. And number three, I'm going to stop watching your tape right now. So I want to make sure you guys don't do those things. In addition, I'm going to put a link in the show notes for this episode on how to get on realitytv.net/episode 16. I created a 45-minute video for you guys. It's on YouTube, and like I said, the link will be in there. But I'm going to give you the specific link that goes through, 5 things you should not do in an audition video. And while you're watching the things not to do, it will also spark things or push you in the way to help you create a better video by focusing on the things that you shouldn't be focusing on. One of which, and I don't want to get too much into it, but is if you're using social media in any way, shape, or form to help get yourself on reality TV, just stop right there. And if you want to learn the other ones, like I said, it'll be in the show notes. But I do want to thank Samantha for asking this question. I hope it helps. You need to start working on your story, and you'll be fine. You just got to put a little preparation into it. And I hope this episode helped. And Samantha, just like Michael before you, it's a small thank you for asking your question through howtogetonrealitytv.net/ask. I will be sending you a free digital copy of my book, How a Normal Guy Got Cast on Reality TV. As a small thank you for putting yourself out there and asking the question, because whether you've asked a question or submitted a question or not, you guys as the audience generate this show, and I want to answer the questions that you guys want answered. So thank you for putting yourself out there, Samantha. I hope I helped answer your question, and I appreciate you. So as we wrap up this episode, I want to thank you guys for taking the time out to listen, and I want to end the episode by reading another iTunes review. If you want to leave a review for the show and potentially have it read at the end, you can do so by going to howtogetonrealitytv.net/iTunes. And this review comes from Ambersonian. And Ambersonian said, "Awesome stuff. These podcasts provide a ton of insider information on the reality TV casting process. Highly recommended if you're trying to get cast on a show. Definitely seems like it would give you a leg up on the competition." So Amber, thank you for leaving that. And that's what this podcast is designed to do. So you're not just going in there like the average normal person without understanding what you're supposed to do, or at least give you a better chance to get cast on reality TV by having this inside information, having this additional preparation for yourself. So that being said, thank you guys for listening to this episode. I will see you guys next Monday, or talk to you guys over your iPod or MP3 player next Monday. Thank you guys for listening, and good luck on your casting journey. Later.